The story for me begins really when I was a little girl. My mom first introduced to me Frida Kahlo in the early 70s, early to mid 70s. And she had a series of art books with all the standard painters that one might encounter in the collection. Dali, Miro, Picasso, Monet, all these guys. And there was one woman, and that was Frida. And she pointed out the connection between us. First thing she said was that we were all bajitas. We were all little shorties. We're all short women. And then she said we were brown women. And then she continued on and pointed out the disabilities that we both shared. I was born with a rather serious neurosensory hearing loss, and I wear hearing aids. And Frida Kahlo, of course, is famous for the disability that she carried in her body after the trolley accident when she was very young in Mexico. So I would say I started writing this opera when I was 5 years old.
When the idea of doing an opera of Frida and Diego knocked on my door, I was a little afraid of it because, first of all, they're giants. They're artists that are bigger than life. And I thought, do we need another Frida and Diego story? But then I sort of changed my mind. I think this doesn't have to be a biopic. And when I listened to Gabriela's music, there was one piece that had to do with the Day of the Dead, and I thought that could be the entry into this opera. Before Diego Rivera died, he wanted his ashes to be united with Frida Kahlo's ashes, and that stayed with me. Even though their relationship in life was tumultuous, Frida was his soulmate.
What Nilo had decided to do was to make it a very intimate opera. And so these were gigantes, they were giants, they were celebrities of the day, but he really focuses on the private little jokes and the reconciliation that needs to happen to get over past hurts. We're talking about multiple worlds in this opera. We have the world of the living, where Diego starts. We have the world of the dead, where Frida starts. So when we first meet Frida, she's a spirit. Katrina, the keeper of the souls, is mischievous. And she calls up Frida and says, don't you want to go back? And Frida says, no. Why would I want to go back to this world? The greatest accident to happen to me wasn't the trolley that impaled me. It was meeting Diego Rivera.
Writing a libretto is very different than writing a play. I think there has to be a compression in the language, almost like a seed that later on will burst and blossom in the mouths of singers.
Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera dealt in color. And so I knew I had to write music that could hold two colorful personalities like that. So there's a lot of color in the orchestra. For instance, the celeste is an instrument that looks like a piano, but it sounds like bells. And when you combine that with other instruments, you cannot recognize instruments normally that you recognize. If you combine it with the flute seems like it has a sheen to it. If you then add a low bass clarinet that is moving with the flute, it sounds like Orpheus from the underworld. If you then introduce the lowest register of the marimba, suddenly you're in a landscape that is not of the West at all. It's something that sounds very ancient and non-Western.
We had a lot of conversations with Deborah Kolker, the director of the opera. She is a very animated director.
I'm a choreographer. I'm a director, but I am a choreographer. That means that I create the ideas, the conception. For this opera, I brought breakdance acrobats, because this is related with Mexico. Mexico has this culture, this street art, street culture. No, it's very important, especially in the Day of Death.
This is a very, very conscientious director. She went to Mexico City with her team to go and witness Day of the Dead festivities. She's a great mind, she's a great artist, she's very, very passionate about what she does.
Before I went to Mexico, my feeling it was, I need to bring the body of Frida, because Frida is about pain and love. Her body represents pain. She wanted to be a mother and she couldn't have babies. And even with this, she has energy, intensity, life, love, but a lot of this. That means that for me, this tree is her veins, her arteries, and also it's life.
The tree represents life. It represents her lineage, her lifeblood, her family tree. In a lot of Frida's paintings, there's tree imagery or images of veins or the idea of kind of creeping roots, effectively, that are trying to ground Frida. She obviously felt a lot of time trapped within the cage of her body or the cage of her bed. The physical set itself, I'm presenting it almost like a temple or a holy place, a place of ritual. The floor is able to crack open. So one of the things thematically about the piece is that we go from the terra firma, the Day of the Dead, as it would have been in 1955 when Diego was alive and sadly Frida had passed, to essentially to the underworld. Around that, we've got these walls of blue fabric, which we all know that Frida Kahlo was obsessed with the color blue. Casa Azul is painted a nice, incredible blue color. These are a bit more subdued, but it's hanging cloth that's wrapped, a bit like a kind of Christo installation, and it's made of scaffolding net. So it's the net that you would see on a kind of New York sidewalk looking up at a building that's being essentially renovated. And it gives, for me, the feeling of that scaffolding and that construction that Diego is doing and creating within his paintings. And then on the downstage of that, we have a mirror that is reflecting the stage beneath. And anyone that will know Frida Kahlo's world or has ever been to her house or her bed, she had a mirror above it so that she could see the world as she was laying there for many, many days of her life, static. She could see the world around her through this mirror and often paint herself from the mirror itself.
Diego and Frida, like artists, they transcend their time, they transcend their place. And I think that art is important.
I think the legacy of Diego Rivera was that he was interested in documenting the marks of history. And Frida was interested in documenting the wounds of the body, especially her body.
And I think one of the things that's very important about Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo, they're deeply Mexican. It was very important for all of us on the team was to honor that, to create a piece of artwork that would do Mexico proud, that symbolized a gift or a tribute. So writing this opera, I came in one level as a composer and I came out in another place as a composer. That's what Frida and Diego did for me.